To talk more about this, Yossi Mekelberg is an associate fellow with the Middle East and North Africa Programme at Chatham House. Yossi, thanks very much for speaking to us this evening. This Sunday, then, Yossi, marking 100 days since the Israel-Hamas war began. We're at least 24,000 deaths in the Palestinian enclave, 60,000 wounded, over 130 hostages still held in Gaza. The milestone is bleak, to say the least.
It is a milestone, but I think at this point it's important that we won't get to the 200 days, because the way that it goes on, it can continue for a very long time. We don't see where kind of actually the move towards a ceasefire is going to take place. So far, the United States is vetoing in the Security Council any decision, any resolution on a ceasefire. And the Israeli government is still looking to something that it's called victory or the destruction of Hamas. The longer this war it goes, the more elusive is the idea of destroying Hamas, the more elusive that continue the war will actually release the hostages. And yes, we shouldn't forget how this war started and the horrendous terrorist attack of the 7th of October, but this should have never been a license to conduct a war that claims so many lives and spread so much destruction in the Gaza Strip. And now the most urgent question and need is for a ceasefire and look for a political solution.
I mean, you touched on the situation in Gaza there. You'll see the UN saying that 2.4 million Palestinians are living this intolerable humanitarian situation, a lack of food, lack of water, no hospitals. I mean, there appears to be no end in sight. Israel's Prime Minister last night spoke about not stopping this war. There is no sign of it halting at all.
This is a nightmare on the highest order. 1.9 million out of the 2.3 million people who live in Gaza, to begin with, half of the population were refugees, are displaced again. There is no really safe place in Gaza. And as the war goes on and not enough humanitarian aid is entering into Gaza, it means that hunger and disease, lack of medication for people that need it, lack of medical treatment, lack of access to clean water, and we can continue on and on. Everything that enables any human being minimum of a decent life are fast disappearing. And most of the people actually living in UN facilities. This is not a sustainable situation. Fighting Hamas, it's one thing. Avoiding and preventing what happened 7th of October, this is completely legitimate. Doing that the way that Israel conducting it now, A, is immoral. B, it's at the end of the day, if you look at the long term of relations between the Israelis and Palestinians, it's bound to be counterproductive. Then it actually needs help almost from Israel, needs help also from the international community to stop it, something that obviously harms the Palestinians immensely, but in the long term harms Israel as well.
How worried should we be about this widening regional conflict? I mean, we've seen today things heating up along the Israel-Lebanon border. There's equally the drone and air attacks on vessels on the Red Seas. How worrying is this widening situation?
It is a worry because the situation between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon is fragile. I don't believe either of the sides want to expand it. However, events are going to dictate it, because we see already whether it's assassination of Hezbollah leaders, whether it's the Hezbollah already killing civilians and soldiers within Israel and attack military installation. At one point or another, it might get out of control by both sides. Even more so if there are pressures from the outside, as we see, for instance, with the Houthis in the Red Sea. This already escalated, and we see the United States and the United Kingdom already attacking targets there because, A, it affects their economies, it affects the security in the Gulf, and it also will affect especially both the United Kingdom and the US in election years, this is going to affect also the chances of leaders to win elections. So I think unfortunately, the scope for escalation is quite big. Let's bear in mind that to a large extent, you have also Iran behind what happens in certain places, but Iran is actually in a position it wants to, and it actually will feel quite comfortable with this situation.
Yossi, I just want to ask you a final question. In 2021, you wrote an article entitled Time for Israelis to Confront the Inconvenient Truth. You evoke the situation in which Palestinians live. 2 years on from that, and of course before October the 7th and the atrocities that occurred on that day, what's your assessment of that article 2 years on?
I think Israel and maybe not capable right now because I don't see much empathy towards Palestinians, to Gazan people right now. But at one point or another, Israel and Israelis, we need to go through a process of soul searching and really assess what leads to all of this. Again, it's not to exonerate Hamas, it's not to exonerate what they did, the atrocity, but also think war conditions that are led to fester, and our occupation and blockade, how oppressing are the people at the end of the day and in catastrophic results. And I think I still stand behind what I said then and probably on many other occasions. And I hope this will be also for both people a learning curve that at the end of the day there is only political solution that will recognize the right of each other, will ensure security of the well-being of both people.
All right, Yossi, on that note of the need for a political solution, Yossi Mekelberg, you are an Associate Fellow with Chatham House. Thanks very much for speaking to France
Thank
24
you.
today.
Thank you.